Jurgen Klopp is quite obviously a remarkable football manager. Only a fool would suggest otherwise. Over a near 20-year career in management, Klopp has managed just 3 teams, and he has performed miracles at each one of them, taking minds from a second Bundesliga relegation scrap to the UEFA Cup, Borussia Dortmund from the bottom half of the Bundesliga to 2 league titles and a Champions League final, and Liverpool from 8th place in the Premier League to Premier League and Champions League crowns. As I said, only a fool would dismiss his talents, although even I must admit that I have a newfound respect for his work in the transfer market, particularly at Borussia Dortmund, after curating this video. Signings that I felt sure would be included, following a bit of extra research, have had to miss out. Given the calibre of players involved, I had to scrutinise every deal, and I want to reiterate that these are the best signings made by Jurgen Klopp, rather than the best players signed by Jurgen Klopp. Virgil van Dijk, for example, is a world-class centre-back, and he was a brilliant signing even for a fee of £75 million. Nonetheless, given the size of the fee and the quality of competition, he is one of a number of honourable mentions, alongside the likes of Sven Bender, who Klopp brought to Borussia Dortmund for just £1.3 million, Shinji Kagawa, who was signed for less than £300,000 and was superb before being sold for Manchester United for around 50 times that amount, along with Ilkay Gundogan, Sadio Mane, Alisson Becker, Thiago, Diogo Jota. I could go on. As you can see, the standard is very high, so here are my views on Jurgen Klopp's 7 best signings. Mohamed Salah. It was splitting hairs in many respects, picking between Mohamed Salah and Sadio Mane in 7th place, both of whom were signed for similar amounts and proved to be absolutely inspired pieces of business. Salah was a shade more expensive than Mane, arriving at Anfield from Roma for a fee of £37 million, with the potential to rise to as much as £44 million. That made the Egyptian Liverpool's club record signing at the time, and there was no lack of sceptics within English football when it came to the fee that was involved. Salah had previous in the Premier League with Chelsea, where he had struggled to get many first-team opportunities and scored only 2 goals in 19 games in total. Rather like Kevin De Bruyne though, Salah returned to the Premier League as a totally different player to the one English viewers had witnessed at Stamford Bridge. Having scored 15 goals the previous season in Serie A, most would have considered double figures to represent a decent debut campaign for the wide man. He would go above and beyond all expectations though, enjoying what was one of the finest debut campaigns at an English football club in the history of the sport. Salah found the back of the net 32 times in the Premier League and 44 times in all competitions, posting numbers that could rival the likes of Messi and Ronaldo in an abnormal campaign. Whilst he hasn't been that outrageously prolific in the years and months since, he remains the most productive wide man in the Premier League and one of Jurgen Klopp's best signings at Anfield. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. The fact that this transfer is in 6th place speaks volumes about the strength of this 7, since Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang was signed by Jurgen Klopp for just £11 million at Borussia Dortmund, and he became one of the most prolific goalscorers on earth at the Westfalenstadion. A little like Salah, Aubameyang had priors at a top club, AC Milan in his case, where he had failed to make a single appearance. The French-born Gabon international, who had been dismissed as a speed merchant by some, rebuilt his career at St Etienne, averaging close to a goal every other game. There ought to have been a long line of clubs queuing up for his signature, but doubts remained about whether Aubameyang could do it at the highest level. Jurgen Klopp seemingly had no such concerns. Dortmund signed Aubameyang, who was 24 years old at the time, for £11 million, with their biggest transfer rivals seemingly having been Newcastle United. Following an impressive debut campaign, Aubameyang just got better and better at Dortmund, particularly after Jurgen Klopp left the club in all truth. He scored 39 goals and 40 goals in each of his last 2 full seasons and 21 in 24 in his last half season with the club before being sold to Arsenal. He departed for a fee of £56 million, meaning Aubameyang scored 141 goals in 213 games for Borussia Dortmund before being sold for a £45 million profit. Not a bad piece of business, I suppose. Lukas Podolski. There are bigger names that I could have included in this 7, to a global audience, than Lukas Podolski. But whilst Virgil van Dijk and Sadio Mane may be more celebrated, and indeed more talented players, Podolski was the superior all-round piece of transfer business. Currently in his 10th season with the club, Lukas Podolski has made 369 appearances for Borussia Dortmund, putting him 7th in the club's all-time appearance charts, and he will most likely leapfrog Lothar Huber into 6th within the next few weeks. Piszczek has twice made the Bundesliga team of the season during an era that has included fellow right-backs Philipp Lahm and Joshua Kimmich in the division, and his consistency has been nothing short of remarkable. Borussia Dortmund have received all that without ever having had to pay a penny to acquire Piszczek's services, since the Polish international joined the club under Jurgen Klopp on a free transfer after his contract with Hertha Berlin came to an end. There have been few better free transfer signings over the last decade. Before I move into 4th place, just a quick shout out to any Liverpool fans who might be watching to tell you about one of our new sister channels called Rousing the Kop. Dedicated entirely to Liverpool, Rousing the Kop features exclusive interviews with Reds legend Emil Heskey about everything from Liverpool's title challenge to the future of Divock Origi. So, if that sounds like your bag, go and check them out. I'll leave a link in the video description to their channel. Andy Robertson. As a Hull City fan, there have been a number of players who we have lost for too little over the last few years, Andy Robertson among them. I must admit, when we sold Robertson for £8 million with the potential to rise to £12 million, I didn't think that we'd been robbed. Robertson was great for us, but he was far from the finished article. His balls into the box were great, but his defensive positioning could be naive, and he was still a little bit raw around the edges. That Robertson has become the player that he has, and the fact that deal now looks like such a steal on Liverpool's part, owes an enormous credit to the work of Jurgen Klopp, his coaching staff, and of course Robertson himself. Particularly when you look at the amount of money some of Liverpool's Premier League rivals have spent in the fullback positions in recent years, Liverpool's deal to sign Robertson looks all the more impressive. A perfect fit in Jurgen Klopp's high-tempo pressing style of play, Robertson has gone from strength to strength at Anfield, becoming one of the most consistent fullbacks in the world. He is now closing in on 150 games on Merseyside, and he's already made the PFA Team of the Season twice. Marco Reus. A player who has never been fully appreciated outside of Germany, in my opinion. If it wasn't for injuries, Marco Reus would have been among the best players in the world, outside of Messi and Ronaldo, over the last 10 years. In fairness, it wasn't as though Jurgen Klopp unearthed a gem in Reus, perhaps like he did in Robertson. The German wide man was already something of a sensation at Borussia Mönchengladbach, where he scored 21 goals from the left flank in his final season. Nonetheless, the fact that Klopp brought him to Dortmund for just €17.1 million means that he is a surefire inclusion, and were it not for injuries, he'd probably have taken top spot. Having said that, if he wasn't so injury prone, perhaps Dortmund wouldn't have been able to keep hold of him for all this time, despite his obvious affection for the club. Quick, brilliant on the ball, and decisive in the final third, Reus formed a fantastic relationship with Mario Götze during his early years at Dortmund, and has thrice bagged 20 plus goals during single seasons. Over the last few years, Reus has moved from the left flank into a number 10 position, but he remains a joy to watch, now in his 9th season at the club. Mats Hummels. I didn't expect this 7 to be quite so Dortmund heavy, but objectively, I think it has to be. Operating on a tight budget, Klopp created a thrilling team that could beat any team in Europe on their day, and the fact that the €350,000 signing of Shinji Kagawa misses out speaks volumes. One signing that doesn't miss out, and indeed takes 2nd place, is the deal that Borussia Dortmund struck for Mats Hummels back in 2009. Hummels had spent half a season on loan at Dortmund from Bayern Munich before Jurgen Klopp took charge at the Westfalenstadion, but it wasn't until February 2009 that the big centre-back joined the club on a permanent basis. The fee? Just €4 million, for a man who would spend the next decade as one of the best centre-backs on the planet. Hummels became a rock at the back for Dortmund, combining his size and strength with his first-class reading of the game and composure on the ball. A 7-time kicker Bundesliga Team of the Season inclusion, following more than 300 appearances for Dortmund, Hummels returned to Bayern in 2016 for over £30 million. The 31-year-old, who has been out in the cold with regards to Joachim Löw and international selection since the 2018 World Cup, returned to Dortmund in the summer of 2019, although he didn't come quite so cheap this time around. Robert Lewandowski. In top spot, who else could it be other than Robert Lewandowski? I could name every out-and-out centre-forward who has been better than Lewandowski during my lifetime on one hand, and I don't think there's a single better one at this moment in time. Again, Lewandowski wasn't a total unknown when Jurgen Klopp brought him to Borussia Dortmund, but he was certainly a gamble of sorts. He was already a regular for the Poland national team and had scored 41 goals in 82 games over the previous 2 campaigns, but those goals had come for Lech Poznan in Poland's top flight. No doubt the Bundesliga represented a step up in class, and it did take Lewandowski just a season to adjust. He found the back of the net 9 times in his debut campaign, but he has averaged 38 goals a season in the 9 seasons since, and only Gerd Müller and Klaus Fischer have scored more in the entire history of the Bundesliga. A powerful yet elegant 6-foot frontman, Lewandowski has been relentlessly prolific for almost a decade. Sadly, from a Dortmund perspective, not all of those goals have come at the Westfalenstadion, and most painfully of all, Lewandowski left the club in 2014 on a free transfer to their biggest title rivals. That sours the waters somewhat, but the fact remains that Lewandowski cost Borussia Dortmund just €4.5 million, he scored 103 goals in 187 games for the club, and without him, there isn't a chance in hell that Jurgen Klopp and Borussia Dortmund would have won 2 Bundesliga titles and reached a Champions League final. So all things considered, I think he is Jurgen Klopp's best signing of all time. So that's it for today's video, but don't forget, especially if you're a Liverpool fan, to check out the Rousing the Cop YouTube channel, which I've left a link to in the video description. Thank you all as ever for watching, give us a like if you enjoyed today's video, let me know your thoughts down in the comments section, and make sure to also subscribe and have notifications turned on for HITC Sevens.